just as the frustration starting to build amongst West Ham fans, myself included, where you think, come on, West Ham, start getting some business done now. You know, this is a vital month for the club. All of a sudden it explodes and everything now comes to life, and West Ham seem to be doing quite well. We're certainly moving anyway when it comes to getting some business done. Before we get into it, though, the transfer update, because there's a fairly few things we want to talk about. Just want to say that we're giving away a West Ham top to subscriber. We do it once a month for the whole season. A lot of people that watching this video now aren't subscribers. So look, all you need to do is just press subscribe. It's free to do so. And also click that like button. It really does help us, helps the channel. It keeps us going. It's you know, we want you to be part of this journey. And look, let's be honest, although it's been a frustrating few days, last couple of weeks, isn't it, as a West Ham fan, because of what happened in the FA Cup, it's still got a lot of potential this season. It really does, being sixth in the Premier League. We've done our preview, of course, on the Sheffield United game, which was yesterday. That's yesterday evening, so go back and have a little watch of that. And, of course, we've got the Europa League coming up in March. So there's still plenty to be excited about. And if we can get this transfer window right, and let's be honest, when I say get it right, I'm not saying West Ham got to go and spend hundreds of millions of pounds and try to bring loads of players in. Just a couple. Just get those couple of players that we need just to push us over the line. Then you just think West Ham really, we really could be finishing, not only in European football this season, but we could be challenging right at the very top. We really could be, not Premier League, winning the Premier League, but I mean, sort of sixth, fifth position. You know, we could be in the mix properly when it comes to the end of the season. It's there for us. It's there for the taking. We've just got to get it right. And I'm quite excited. I really am. My levels of excitement have changed. I've been sort of feeling a little bit like I don't expect much to happen. We might get just maybe one loan through the door or something. I could sort of sense something like that. But now we're seeing a big shift, actually, not only in the players that we're looking at, but it's the language as well. We've got David Moyes himself coming out and saying, I'm expecting West Ham to do business. He's even been saying it, that we're going to be offloading more players. His words actually were, not only are we going to be trying to offload players, we're not in the mood for loaning players out either. We're going to be selling. David Moyes, okay, is not saying these things because he's trying to put pressure on the ball. That's not how David Moyes operates. We know David Moyes well enough now. He is very much aligned with the board. He's very much aligned with Sullivan, with Steidton. They're all in the same meetings. They're having the same conversations. For him to publicly come out and say that indicates to me that West Ham are going to be doing some business in January. So I'm actually getting quite excited actually now. I'm thinking, do you know what? My confidence levels over this season are starting to improve, even despite what we've been through the last few days in terms of what we went through at Bristol City. I'm actually starting to feel like, do you know what, we could go and do something this season. So let's talk about a few things first. So in terms of the players that we've got, and the one I want to focus on is Saïd Benrahma. I believe he has played his last game for West Ham. I think he will be gone probably within the next week or so. I really do. Well, it will have to be the next week or so, won't it? Because we've only got about, 10 days left, haven't we, to the end of the window. So I think Benrahma will go. The Saudi clubs are interested. There's also some French clubs that are interested. I think Lyon and Marseille. Lyon, I'm not convinced that they're going to be after him now because of other players they're bringing in. But Marseille are certainly keen. It appears West Ham are trying to hold out for more money for the player. They want to recoup what we paid. I don't see how I can do that. I'd be surprised if we get 10 million for him, to be honest. And also, it's like frees up wages. I just want to start seeing gone now. Benrahma's time at West Ham is up. We've seen that this season. He's finished at West Ham. He needs the move. We need it to happen. It's best for all parties. And I believe he will be sold within the next few days. I really do. I think, as I say, Saudi clubs are very keen on him. That to me makes more sense for him personally. I think that's where he should be going at his age, the money out there, especially in terms of his culture, etc. I just feel like it's a good fit. So I would not be surprised if we see him go that way. But as I've said, there are some French clubs interested as well. I'm going to be honest here, right? I think that his red card against Bristol City has done us a massive, massive favour, because had he not have got that red card, he would be in the squad to be facing, not only be in the squad for facing Sheffield United, he'd be playing, he'd be starting, and probably would be playing the next game as well, etc., while we're waiting for players to come back. He is David Moyes' go-to sub, isn't he, most games? So I get the feeling that this has actually done us a massive favour because we can't use him. He's surplus the requirements for the rest of this month. So what's the point? He's literally useless now at West Ham. So I think that's accelerating the club's need now just to get rid of him. Because, as I say, if he was available, they'd be going, well, actually, no, don't get rid of him yet because we need him for these games. We're waiting on him for Kudus to come back. So we'll get it. We don't need him now. So I actually believe that red card's done us and probably Ben Rama a big favour. As I say, I'm pretty confident that he is now. I'll go as far as saying I'm 95% sure he will be sold before the end of the transfer window, which is good news to West Ham because I think it's time for him to depart. I'll always be grateful to Ben Rama because of the penalty in the Conference League final last season. Big moment for West Ham, and I'll always be grateful for it. And look, he has delivered on some good moments as well. He's had some good times at his club, but his time's up. Overall, it hasn't been the best signing. He's been okay. He's been an all right player for West Ham. That's all I was as far as saying. Seen some moments of good play from him, but ultimately he's been also a bit frustrating. He looks a player that now he needs one more move in his career, you imagine, and he could do with a change, a bit of freshening up, a bit of a fresh start. So I think it will be a good move all round, and we need to bring in players, and we are heavily linked with a few. Obviously, Jack Clark of Sunderland we talked about a fair bit. We've got Jota, who plays in Saudi as well. There's a few players we've been linked with, but Ben Rama, for me, in terms of exits, I think that one's going to happen. Now, one that's a new one that's come out is Young Woo he plays in... He's basically a South Korean player. He plays for a club called Ulsan in South Korea, and he's South Korean international. He's a fullback, and it appears that we are now exploring the Asian market. This is something that the ex-WHU employees talked about a fair bit, actually, in the past, that David Sullivan is very keen to exploit that market. It completely makes sense. Forbes did an article about a month ago in terms of football clubs and etc. And clubs that are emerging and doing very well. West Ham were, I think, one of the best, biggest performers in Europe in terms of how we've stepped up, in terms of how we're recognised globally. This is it's really important. It's not just about a popularity contest. Okay, it's not just, oh, we're getting recognised. That's great. It's because, well, we've been in Europe, haven't we? We've been in Europe now for 3 successive seasons. We're trying to push for a 4th. And in that time as well, we've won a European trophy. That's making us recognised around the world. People are now taking notice of this football club and thinking, who are these guys? And when you look at the finances of Premier League clubs, when we talk about the big 6, I hate that phrase. I really hate it. But there actually is a reason behind it. Kieran Maguire, who's a finance expert, was on the West Ham Way Patreon recently with David X. And he was talking about the gulf in between the top big earners out there in the Premier League and the clubs like us, or what the differences are. Because I've always been a bit suspicious of why it's so different. But you look at, say, the market, just say for Arsenal, for instance, the difference that the money they generate in Asia and across the world, just around the world, that they generate so much money. Manchester United make an absolute fortune. Manchester United's shirt sales, from Ronaldo, were literally eclipsing what West Ham make in a whole year. It's just, the worlds are very different. And this is what enables these clubs to go and spend bigger money because their revenues are just so much higher. It's something that West Ham are very aware of and want to change. So they're looking at this Asian market now. Young Woo, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, it might be Young Woo, I think, but Young Woo I'm going to go with for now. 25-year-old fullback. Tim Steidten's out there now trying to get a deal done. I think he's going to make a decision, but it seems the confidence levels are quite high that we're going to make a move, and we can also get the deal done for a very reasonable price. And it'll be our first Korean player at the club, of course. It's things like the shirt sales of this player in Korea. He's well regarded. He's an international player. They will follow him, and it's ticket sales at games and things like that. Look, it's the modern day of football now. West Ham have got to keep up the pace. If we want to be knocking on the door and trying to compete with the big clubs in this Premier League, we've got to play it clever. And I think this is a really clever move by the club. He's a very highly regarded player. So look, let's wait and see on this one. But X has reported it. It sounds like something's going to happen here, or if Steidten presses the green button, we're going to be finding out a bit more about that soon. But certainly one to keep an eye on. So yeah, Youngwoo of Ulsan, who's as I say, a South Korean international. So one you really got to keep an eye on. Really interesting day in regards to Friday regarding Smith Rowe. My God, honestly, it was relentless. So. It appears that West Ham were in talks with Arsenal over a potential deal for Reece Nelson. The player Reece Nelson, as it was in the summer, wants to stay at Arsenal, wants to try and earn his place there at the club. So nothing much has really changed there. But apparently during these conversations, Smith Rowe came up and West Ham have explored that and looked at a possibility of a loan move. We put out the news on that, and my God, it really exploded fast. It went everywhere. And it was over Sky. It was just all over the place. Anyway, as it turns out quite quickly, those talks have stalled and pretty much are dead. The agent has made it very clear the player doesn't want to leave, wants to stay at Arsenal. Arsenal are really happy with the player, want him to stay. There's no desire for a change here. Unless anything drastically changes, I don't think Smith Rowe's going to happen. To be honest with you, I was unsure where he'd fit in anyway. I'll be honest. I was thinking, well, okay, where are we slotting him in? Don't get me wrong, very good player. I like Smith Rowe, very decent player, been excellent for Arsenal at times. I find it quite strange he's so desperate to stay at Arsenal because in fact I think he's played twice, made 2 appearances this season, so a bit strange. But look, up to him, of course. And if that's his desire, I don't want players that don't want to be here, so I'm not too fussed. But yeah, that was one that sort of went, wow, we're going to get Smith Rowe, and then it was cut dead really, really quickly. But the big one for me that I think is going to happen, honestly, I think this one I'm quite confident will happen, is Calvin Phillips of Manchester City. As we understand it, West Ham are in talks with Manchester City. We're trying to come to a compromise on the loan fee. I think there's talks that they wanted £7 million for the remainder of the season, which is very high. And also, I think he's on 130 grand a week wage. And I think West Ham are saying we're a bit reluctant to pay all of that. So we want them to subsidise some of the wages. So they're trying to negotiate on that. The latest update we've got at the moment is that Calvin Phillips wants to move. He wants to come to West Ham. He's up for it. That's all I want to hear, really. I think this is going to be I personally think this will be a great move for West Ham. I've got concerns over his fitness. That's why a loan move suits me. I think that's great. You know, I would say not obligation to buy. I would say an option to buy. West Ham should have first dibs if you want to buy the player in the summer. I want to see how he gets on. But make no mistake, I think Calvin Phillips would be a significant upgrade on Thomas Souček. I really do. I love the idea of having Alvarez, Phillips and James Ward-Prowse in that midfield. That really excites me. I think this will happen. I really do. This, to me, reminds me of Jesse Lingard. It has that same feeling of that player that we've got the Euros coming up in the summer. He's at a big club. He's not playing regularly. He needs game time. He's going to come here and be a hungry, talented player that's going to want to prove himself to Gareth Southgate. And I think that is going to pay dividends to West Ham. And look, he's joining a team that are fighting for top 6 football this season. We really are. We are in the mix in it. And let's make no mistake, we are in the fight again. And I'm really pleased that we are. And I think I genuinely think this would be a great move for West Ham and for the player. I've got nothing but good things to say about it. I'm confident it'll happen as well. I do think there'll be a compromise. And yeah, that is the update at the moment. As far as we understand, talks are progressing. Player wants to move. I wouldn't be surprised if this happens in the next few days. I really wouldn't. I think this sounds like the one that's quite close. So look, there's a few more updates on Patreon. If you're not a patron, go and check it out. I've got the link below. The West Ham Way. It's patreon.com/the West Ham Way. And then when you get all the updates and detailed updates from ex-WH employee, I've obviously picked a few out here. The ones that I think are sort of big news. But yeah, Calvin Phillips for me is the one that appears very close. And when I say close, it's the one that's closest out of all of them at the moment. And it's one that I'm pretty confident will happen. So yeah, exciting times. If we can get this window right, my word, we're in for an exciting season. And by the looks of it, I would not be surprised if Calvin Phillips is a West Ham player in the very near future.